perceived if it's just, if awareness has no object? How can you perceive that? I mean,
well, why do you have to perceive it? You cannot be aware without being aware that you're aware. So awareness is always self-aware. Have you ever been aware of anything without being aware that you are aware of that thing?
No.
So awareness always entails, and even if you're aware of nothing else, you must be aware of yourself. Because you are awareness, and being aware, who is aware? I am aware. Of course, now we say I am aware, it's a thought, but in sleep we're aware of being aware without thinking that we're aware. Because as I say, it's intransitive awareness. It's not awareness of anything, it's just awareness.
So just clarifying what you're saying to Gurudev, I mean, so it's the ego that points that attention. So it's
Yeah. So the ego is now pointing its attention at other things. It has to point its attention back at itself. And then all pointing will cease.
And then it subsides.
Yeah.
And then the experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At one of the talks that you gave, you talked about almost like doing this I am as a mantra. Not
as a mantra. Bhagavan sometimes, for people who found it difficult to understand what it means to be attentively self-aware, what it means to attend to oneself, Bhagavan said, simply just calmly within your mind repeat I. And what is that word I referring to? See that within yourself. So if I say apple, an image of an apple comes to your mind, or the taste of an apple comes to your mind. Every noun denotes a certain object, and every pronoun indirectly refers to a certain object or thing. I is the pronoun that refers to ourself. So we shouldn't be meditating on the word I, but on what does that word I refer to. So it's just one of the many clues that Bhagavan gave us to help us to fix our attention on ourselves. Which is very useful for people initially, because people say, I can't see any I. Because they think we're so used to objective awareness, being aware of objects, we look inside to see, but no, there's no object inside that I can call I. But there's a very famous, in philosophy, there was a Scottish philosopher called David Hume. And some people have compared his philosophy, in one respect, his philosophy is similar to Buddhism, people say. Because he, in one of his books, he wrote, but when he looks in himself, he can't find anything called self. All he sees is certain perceptions, but he never sees himself. And he actually said, when I look within myself, I cannot see any such principle. By such principle, he means any self. But what does that I refer to? When he says, I look within myself, what does that myself refer to? It's referring to something. It's referring to the one who is looking. He is looking for something without being aware of what he's looking for. The one who is looking is what he's looking for. So actually, from a perspective of Bhagavan's teachings, what he wrote in that passage, which is often quoted in philosophical books, to suggest what they talk about Hume's bundle theory of the self. But the self is just a bundle of perceptions and no more than that. But it's all based on this one passage, and if you read that passage, it's just one paragraph, it's absolute gibberish. Because he's saying, he's saying, I can't find myself, I can't find my I. But the I who says I can't find, when I look within myself, I can't find myself, is itself the thing he should be looking for. But all he sees is sensations, cold, heat, this, that, thought, all sorts of sensations and perceptions. But because he's overlooking the one who is aware of all that. So people find it very difficult when they're told to attend to themselves. Like Hume was doing, he was looking for something which he could call himself. Obviously you can't find anything. Because what we ourselves are is the awareness that is aware of all these. That which is aware of all these things is ourself. Well, it's not ourself, it's our ego. But if we then turn our attention back towards that ego who is aware of all these things, if we focus our attention on the one who is aware of all these things, it ceases to be aware of all these things because its attention is turned back on itself. So it becomes aware of itself alone, therefore it subsides, and what remains is what we really are, which is just pure awareness, pure intransitive awareness. Now we come to Bhagavan's real teaching, silence.
Abiding in the self.
Yes.
This is a term usually used. What
Yes.
exactly does it mean?
Abiding means being.
Abiding in the self.
Yes, abiding means being. So it's not being in the self. Well, we can say being in the self or being as the self. What it means is the state in which we are aware of nothing but ourself. That is the state in which we are being as ourself or in ourself. So basically, self-attentiveness is self-abidance. Attending to anything other than ourself is abiding in the world. Attending to ourself is abiding in ourself.
What about our responsibilities in the world? What do we do with them?
You don't have to bother about them because according to Bhagavan, what you are destined to do, you will be made to do. So if you're destined to look after your family, you will be made to do that. You don't have to bother about that. You'll be driven to do it. As Bhagavan said to his mother, ātma-vichāra, he Adhikānavan, he doesn't even say God directly, he says Adhikānavan. Adhikānavan literally means he who is for that. Being in your own heart will make you act. It's not even make you act, literally it means will make you dance. So he will make us act to do what we are destined to do. As he often said, if you're destined to work, you'll be made to work. If you're destined not to work, you won't be able to work even if you try to. So all our outward cares and responsibilities, we can happily surrender it all to Bhagavan to take care of it all. Because whatever we need to do, he will make us do. But when I say we, make us do, well, us is the body and mind. Our responsibility, the only real responsibility we have, is to separate ourselves from this body and mind and let them do whatever actions they came into existence to do.
Actually, before you made this distinction between the personal self and the ego,
Yes.
I really see them both as virtually the same thing, right?
Yes.
Actually, you've introduced the kind of idea that the ego is somehow separate
Yes.
from this, my experience
experience of myself.
Yes. A person is what we now experience ourselves to be. But the same ego that now experiences this person, Michael, before this person was born, what did this ego experience itself as? It would have been dreaming some other dream and experiencing itself as some other person. So there's clearly a distinction between the ego and whatever person it takes to be itself. When Bhagavan says, investigate the ego, he's not asking us to investigate the person. He's not asking us to go and study psychology or to study astrology to find out all about our personality or anything. The person that we seem to be is what we need to ignore. Who is the one who is experiencing this person as I?
Yeah.
That is the ego. That is what we need to investigate.
Well, when I do self-inquiry, I'm inquiring as to who I am ultimately.
Yes.
You know, so I feel like I'm in a way bypassing the ego.
Well, you're not. You cannot bypass the ego because the ego is what you now seem to be.
Well, that's the personality, isn't it?
No, it's not the person. No, it's not the personality. Sorry. Okay. It's very difficult to express this clearly. The ego is the one who seems to be this personality. It's not the ego is what you seem to be. The ego is the one who seems to be anything other than what you are.
Yes. This is
So
the one that is the principle that is making the mistake.
the ultimate seer is the ego, the one who is experiencing the one who is experiencing me as I am Michael. That is the ego. Sorry, I don't know your name, or I would have. Sorry?
Michael.
Oh, you're also Michael. Okay, right. Well, then it applies to either of us. So the one who is experiencing I am Michael, that is the ego. Michael is not the ego. Michael is just a temporary adjunct. Michael is the name of the person. The person is a bundle of adjuncts. Because the person is not only a body. When a person dies, we can still see the body there, but we say the person is gone, they're dead. So it's that package of a body and a mind makes up the person. So all the physical attributes and the mental attributes of that person, it all makes up that person. So person is as I say, it's a package. It's the package of adjunct that we currently experience as ourself.
Yeah. But that is an important principle in self-inquiry, isn't it? Because the ego is in there.
That is why self-inquiry is sometimes called drisya viveka. Drisya drik is in compound, it's the word dris means seer. In compound it becomes drik. Drisya means what is seen. So we had to, viveka means distinguishing or discriminating. So we're trying to distinguish the seer from the seen. Who is the one who is experiencing, to separate the experiencer from the experienced, the subject from the object. The ego is the ultimate subject, the ultimate experiencer, the ultimate seer.
But isn't the self, your true self, isn't that the...
No, because, well, the ultimate seer of anything other than ourself. Because the self is not aware of anything other than itself. So it is beyond seeing or not seeing. It is the basic awareness, the intransitive awareness.
Yeah.
But all transitive awareness, all awareness of anything, who is the one who is aware of anything? It is the ego. So we've got to go back. That is what is sometimes called sakshi, the witness. The ultimate seer, the ultimate witness is the ego.
But the ego is insentient, isn't it, ultimately?
No, well, no, the ego is a knot which binds what is sentient and what is insentient. So it seems, the ego is non-existent. But when it seems to exist, it seems to be both chit and jada, though it is neither. If you have two pieces of string, you tie them together in a knot. That knot exists only so long as those two strings are tied together. If you untie them, separate them, where is the knot? There's no not. The not has no independent existence. It is that combining or that mixing of the chit and the jada. So the ego seems to be chit in that it says, yes, I know, I am aware. It also seems to be jada because it says, I am this body. Body is jada. So it is mixing. Why the body seems to be sentient? Because the ego is mixing it along, it's confusing it with pure self-awareness.
The ego seems to be kind of drawing on pure self-awareness and then projecting it on.
Well, yes, that is what Bhagavan said. But the light which illumines the mind, the light which enables the light of awareness, light is there used as a metaphor for awareness. What is it that is illumining all these things and making it invisible to the ego? The ultimate light is only the pure awareness. But the mind misuses that awareness to be aware of other things. So instead of turning back to the source of the light, we are using the light to be aware of other things. In order to turn back to the source of the light, that light comes from where? From within us. So we have to turn our attention back to the ego in order to, just like we cannot see the rope without looking at the snake. So you cannot bypass the snake. If you want to see the rope, you have to look at the snake. When you look at the snake, you then see there's no snake, there's only a rope. So also we have to look at the ego. Only when we look at the ego, then we find, oh, what I'm looking at is not any ego, it's just myself. That's why we can never bypass the ego. We have to go through the ego, through the illusion, and out the other side. That's a metaphorical way of saying it, because actually there's no this side or that side, but...
I suppose in a sense it's casting doubt on the ego.
Yes, yeah. But if you follow any religion, you have to believe so many things. But when we come to Bhagavan, he says, don't believe anything. Don't even believe the one who is believing. Doubt the doubter. Doubt the believer. So this is the ultimate, Bhagavan's path is the ultimate path of skepticism. Radical skepticism. We're doubting even the existence of the one who is doubting. You can't get more radical skepticism than that.
Buddha says the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's a very central issue, isn't it?
It is the central issue, the only central issue. Everything else is periphery, unnecessary, extraneous. That's why we should focus only on this ego. What is this? But of course we find 101 reasons for excuses for not doing so, because we don't yet want to give up everything. Because as Bhagavan said, investigating what this ego is giving up everything. So until we are willing to give up everything, we will not be willing to focus all our attention on ourselves. To be aware of ourselves alone, we just have to let go of everything else. Letting go, it cannot be difficult. It seems to be difficult because we don't want to let go. That's why we turn a little within, but we're not ready to. Supposing we were in Tiruvannamalai, it was hot midday sun, and we want to see the sun. But we know if we see the sun, we'll be blinded. We try to look, but we keep on reverting our gaze away, because we know if we look directly at the sun, even for a moment, we'll be completely blinded. We'll never be able to see anything again. So also, we say we are trying to look within to see our ego, to find this ego. But we're never looking at it directly because we're afraid. We know if we look at it directly for one moment, story will be over.
We're just kidding ourselves.
Well, yes, but I mean, it's good, let us continue kidding ourselves, at least trying. Because the more we try, the more we persevere in trying, the more our mind will gradually be purified, and the more pure it becomes, the more clear it becomes, the more we will develop love for that. And the more our desire for other things, our desire to experience anything other than ourselves, all our Vishaya vasanas as they're called. Vishaya means anything other than ourselves. Vasana means simply an inclination, or a propensity, a desire to go to experience those things. So Vishaya vasanas are nothing but our own desires to experience anything other than ourselves. Those will all, the more we get inner clarity, the more we'll get love to experience ourselves alone and lose any liking to experience anything else. That is how we develop the purity of mind, or the maturity of mind, to eventually let go of everything and return to what we really are.
Have you noticed a decrease in your outward tendencies as you practice?
I'm sorry to say, after 40 years I haven't noticed any difference. But in fact, if at all there's any difference, I would say I'm now more painfully aware of how strong my vasanas are. Sadhuam used to give an analogy for this. He said, people imagine, but when you become advanced in this path, it becomes very easy. Your mind becomes very pure. Everything will seem very easy. He said it's not so. It becomes more and more difficult as you go on, because the more your mind is purified, the more every speck of dirt in it becomes clear to you. And he used to give the analogy of a moon. In a crescent moon, can you see any craters on the moon? Crescent moon looks a pure silver line, doesn't it? Only as the moon gets bigger and bigger, when it's half moon, you can begin to vaguely see the craters. Only when you have a full bright moon do you see all the craters most clearly. So the more our mind becomes purified, the more clear the blemishes in our mind become. And the more painfully we'll be aware of how much desire we still have for experiencing other things. So we shouldn't expect that it's going to, if we go a little further along the path, it's going to become all rosy along the way. It'll become more and more difficult as we go along.
So doesn't that mean that Bhagavan's a little bit deceptive in saying it's the very easiest thing?
No, Bhagavan is not. Bhagavan is absolutely correct. It is very, very easy. But it is very, very, it seems difficult because we're unwilling to let go. And the more closer we come to letting go, what was Bhagavan's final experience? Intense fear of death. Because his mind was so pure, he was so close to that point, well, complete annihilation of the ego. He got suddenly that fear welled up in him. If this body dies, am I going to die? So it was an intense fear of death that pushed him over the brink.
That brings up the point.
Can any of us experience fear of death as intensely as Bhagavan, as a 16-year-old boy, experienced it? If we could, we'd be ready. But we're not. As soon as we think of, even if we become a little bit afraid of death, what do we think about? We think about our wife, our children, our bank balance, our house, our this, our that, all these things which we hold dear. We think, if I die, I'm going to be separated from all these things. Bhagavan didn't think about any of these things. If this body dies, will I die along with it? The only thing he was concerned about was about whether he would die. We are concerned about all the things we will be separated from. So he was only concerned about, what is this I? Is this I something that dies or not something that dies? But the last thing we think about when we think about death is about this I. We think about we think about whether there's going to be a life after death and everything, but we're not thinking about who is this I now? If this I who is experiencing this, if this I who is experiencing this is going to experience some life after death, then who is that I? It obviously can't be this body, but who is it? We keep on overlooking this when we talk about life after death or no life after death, whether there's a God or no God. Who is asking all these questions?
Well, obviously, I.
Yes, and who is this I? What is this I? Obviously it's this person, Michael, we think. But who is the I who is experiencing Michael as I?
Yes, well that's...
So we have to go back. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, it's like peeling an onion. You peel off layer after layer after layer, and finally when you peel off the last layer, what's inside? Nothing. Yes. Yes. Who is the one who's holding the bundle? The ego. The ego, who is the one who is clinging to the bundle? It's the ego. It's the nature of the ego to cling to the bundle. Letting go of the bundle means giving up attention to everything other than ourselves. It is a great relief, yes. Yes. If a person is very sick with cancer or something, very painful condition, when they eventually pass away, we all feel very sad, but we say, oh, for them it must be such a relief. So also for when eventually our ego dies, what a great relief it will be for us. Well, that nothingness is what alone actually exists. And that nothingness is a nothingness only from our perspective. There's no, instead of saying no thing, there's no phenomena. It's a state of devoid of any phenomenal awareness, just pure awareness. The nothingness is the fullness. It's empty of all, it's empty of everything unreal, and it's the fullness of reality.
So when we experience that, can be not just peeling off an onion, it's just there.
Yes, but it's only when we peel off the final layer, which is when we go peel off all these things, now we take this person to be I, we separate ourselves, go back, and finally we shed this ego. What then remains, from the perspective of the ego, which is always aware of other things, it is nothing. But from the perspective of what remains, it is what is always there. We are not a thing. Or we're the only thing, whichever, I mean, that's just words. Yeah, it's words. I mean, we can say it this way or we can say it that way, but it's no words can capture actually what we are.
So when it's no me and mine, everything's mine.
Yes, well, everything is me. Yeah, there is only me, nothing. There's no everything, there's only me.
There's no need to go outside for it.
No.
Totally satisfied.
Yes.
Why does ego arise at all?
Has it arisen?
Which is there, we talk about ego.
This was a question, she was asking how, you're asking why. It's the same question. Bhagavan, the only answer, that was a question Bhagavan could never answer. Because in Bhagavan's view it had never risen. So he said, what ego? See if it's arisen in the first place. Whether you ask, how was the barren woman's son born? Or why was he born? It's both an equally meaningless question. What is the barren woman's son? A fiction. It doesn't exist. Because if she had a son, she wouldn't be a barren woman. And if she's a barren woman, she doesn't have a son. It's an impossibility. Just like the ego is an impossibility.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could I follow on from that? I know you don't like to use Indian Hindu terminology.
Yes.
Could you just say something about Maya? Because we're kind of skirting around this self-concept.
Bhagavan pointed out what Maya etymologically means. Ma is a strong negative, and Ya is a feminine form of Yaha, which is what? Maya is personified as a female because it's a power, and power is often associated with the female in Indian mythology. It's not a comment on any gender, obviously. It is a metaphorical. So Maya means what is not, or she who is not. So in other words, Maya is non-existent. What doesn't exist but seems to exist, that is Maya. That is our ego. The root of Maya is the ego. And everything else that the ego experiences is the effect of Maya. So this is also all Maya.
Do the Hindus have a great respect for what they call Maya, who's identified with the goddess?
Well, yes. That's what I said earlier. Mythology can be interpreted in many different ways. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to sometimes talk about Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. Vidya Maya means the Maya of wisdom. Avidya Maya means the Maya of ignorance. What he called Vidya Maya is the same as grace. Grace is also personified as feminine.
So you use Maya to get rid of Maya?
Well, yes, but they're two opposite types of Maya. But the Maya that induces us to attend to anything other than ourselves is Maya. The Maya that induces us to turn back within is grace. Ultimately, they're the same power. Because what prompts us to attend to all these things is because we're seeking happiness for ourselves, but we seek happiness outside us. So it's our love for ourselves that is inducing us to turn outwards, because we think we're going to get happiness from these things. When the clarity comes to our mind and we understand that happiness doesn't lie in anything external, happiness lies only within, the same love for ourselves ceases to act as Maya and begins to act as grace, which is, grace is the love we have for ourselves as we really are. Whereas Maya is the love we have for ourselves in a distorted form.
Your interaction with Sadhu
Yes.
and indirectly Murugan as well.
Yes.
Possibly the other awakened Nanis.
Yes.
Did their realization, self-realization, their experience occur as a sudden explosion, as that one moment of hallelujah, or was it gradually warming in, or how did they speak of this?
Sadhuam never spoke about his experience in at all a personal way. He never said, I am realized, or I have realized, or anything. In one of he's written a poem called Ramana Sahasram. That's 1,000 verses praying for jnana. It's called Ramana Sahasram Enam Jnana Pratana, prayer for jnana. In one of towards the end of it, he says something to the effect, did I see or did I not see? I don't know. Only you know. Because once the ego is destroyed, there's no person remaining there to say, I have realized or I have not realized. Do you know Tamil? Okay. In Tamil there's a beautiful saying, Vindila Kandile, those who say have not seen, Kandava Vindile. Vindava Kandile, those who say have not seen, Kandava Vindale, those who have seen do not say. Because then nobody's to say. Nobody remains to say. But talking in a totally impersonal way, Sadhu Om said, that's what Bhagavan says, which is, it has to be a split second. You either experience yourself as you are, or you experience yourself as something else. There's no halfway between realization and non-realization. If realization is the term we use to mean jnana, we're either in ajnana or we're in jnana. We cannot be halfway between. There's no midway point. Either you see the snake or you see the rope. You cannot see the two together. Have you seen various optical illusions, but one famous one is the duck rabbit. It's a simple pencil drawing, and you can see the two things either as the beak of a duck or as the ears of a rabbit. You cannot see it as a duck and a rabbit at the same time. If you look at any of the various drawings of it, you can either see it as a duck or you can see it as a rabbit. You cannot see it as both. So we either see ourselves as we actually are, or we don't see ourselves as we actually are.
You said there are 7 levels of jnana?
That is what they call 7 jnana bhumikas. The first 3 are different states of spiritual aspiration, and the last 4 are supposed to be different states of jnana. But according to Bhagavan, those 4 are all the same state. The difference between those 4 is differences in the outward behavior of the body. But that body doesn't exist in the view of the jnani. That body exists only in the view of the others. The jnani is the sleeper in the cart. He is unaware of whether the body seems to be in samadhi or seems to be sleeping or seems to be active. For him it's no different, because in his view he alone is. He or her, or gender doesn't enter into it. Actually the correct term for a jnani is neither he nor she, it's it. Because he's beyond gender. It is beyond gender. It is the one infinite reality.
Can I ask something? How essential is the concept of reincarnation for all of this? Is it an essential part of becoming realized? Or
it's not essential, but the thing is, it's reincarnation or rebirth. It's a bit of a misnomer. What it is, it's the easiest way to understand it, and the way in Bhagavan's teachings, what it is, our present state is a dream. When one dream comes to an end, we either begin immediately dreaming another dream, or we spend a little time in sleep and then begin dreaming another dream. Dreams continue so long as the ego persists, because the ego will keep on rising again and again and again. So that's all it is. They're just different dreams.
But does the dream have to be in the physical level? Could it be on a more transcendental plane?
Supposing you in your dream tonight, you dream that this meeting is continuing and you're asking me this question, you will be feeling in your dream that you're in the physical world, won't you?
Yes, that's right.
The dream is, now we say dream is not physical, it's just mental. But while we're actually dreaming, it seems to be physical. Whatever is our current state seems to be a physical state.
Right, that's interesting. Yes.
But actually, there's no such thing as a physical state. Nothing is physical, it's all just mental.
Yes, thank you.
So, in what sense is the idea of reincarnation or rebirth or whatever we call it, in what sense is it necessary? Supposing we didn't believe in that, then there's no point in trying for jnana, because when this body dies, the ego will die along with it, that's the end. But that's just like saying, if I wake up from this dream, that's the end of it. But one dream comes to an end, another dream starts.
But this is what the neo-Advaitins teach. I won't go into names, but basically...
Yeah, I know, there's a lot of...
You just merge back. No, I agree with you, but
yeah.
I'm really coming here, I think, from a more purifying yourself, but at a transcendental level.
Yes.
At a level. But what you've just said is whether that's there or whether it's here, they're both.
It's no difference.
Physical. I can accept that.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Obviously, when we do die, we don't just merge back into God, or it is all nonsense.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, but purification has to go on until we are ready to merge in God.
I can accept your explanation, but what I can't accept is that, well, I was Cleopatra, no, you're wrong. I was Cleopatra and you were my onion seller, you know.
Yes, yes.
We all indulged in when we were in our 20s.
Yes.
I just find I've gone beyond that.
Yes, yes. It doesn't matter whether you're Cleopatra or who you were, it's all a dream anyway.
What about this kind of thing where people, you know, I mean, there's still this kind of attachment that we have to our parents and to our people who've gone.
Yes.
And what about this kind of thing where they
Because we now,
talk to you from somewhere else?
because we now take this person to be ourselves, we think these other people are our parents. But the parents are just, they in this particular dream, those particular people seem to be our parents. When this dream comes to an end, we'll dream some other dream and have other parents. So it's all our own. If we consider it all to be a dream, as Bhagavan advises us to consider it, it's so long as our parents are alive, so long as they seem to be like us, other people, we have to treat them kindly. Once they're dead, the ritualists will say, oh, you should continue all these things. When people ask Bhagavan whether these things it's good to do these things, he said, yes, it's good for the doer. That means for the person who does it, all these things are good. But these are good only from the perspective of kamyata. If you do from a perspective of kamyata.
What's that?
Kamyata means that if the ordinary belief people have, if you do all these rituals and everything, that is good for your ancestors. Bhagavan says it's good for the one who does it. That means it's good for you. But it's good only, we think that by doing good for our ancestors, they will bless us, and it will be good for us. And then our children will do for us, we will bless them. It's all
No, I mean much more this idea that, you know, you can go to people who say that, you know, oh, I can see your ancestor there and he's saying this or she's saying that.
Well,
But I've done.
yeah, I know, there's also these type of things. Yeah, these like clairvoyance, mediums. It's not only in Hinduism, everywhere you get these things. All these things, we want to perpetuate our dream. We are so attached to this dream. We are so attached to we loved our parents and we want to cherish their memory. So we would like the idea that they continue to exist. They do continue to exist as ourself. If we really want to have contact with our parents, we should go return to our source, which is where we came, and from where everything else came also.
In unconscious immortality, Bhagavan says to Paul Brunton,
Yes.
the dream you're given has been preordained by Almighty God for your spiritual development.
Yes.
Would you agree with this? Is this
If Bhagavan has said it, of course I'll agree with it. But yeah, no. Of course, that is what Bhagavan always said. Prarabdha is given to us for our spiritual development. Whatever is the best thing for our spiritual development. As I was saying earlier, every life we are accumulating more fruits of karmas than we're exhausting old fruit. So the sanchita is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So Bhagavan has an infinite, well, not quite infinite, but he's got a vast choice of karmas he can select for us to experience in this lifetime. Why he selected the particular karmas that we are experiencing in this lifetime, it is because those are the ones which are most conducive to our spiritual development. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, then God would not be gracious. If God were to give us something, when God does it, people say God is punishing me. I'm suffering, so God is punishing me. God is not actually punishing us. He is giving us circumstances which are most beneficial for our spiritual development. If we suffer, it is the fruit of our past karma, but it's not given with an intent to punish us, but with an intent to purify us, to mature us.
Thank you very much. The other question I've got is, why did Bhagavan refer to this as a cosmic joke? He said that it's a cosmic joke.
I doubt if he used quite the word cosmic joke, but it is the ego is a joke. How does the one infinite reality appear as if it were
Real.
yeah? And no, how does one infinite reality appear as this little ego? That is some very perverse type of joke. And that is a joke the ego is playing on itself. We can't blame the reality for that, because the reality knows nothing about it. To whom has it happened? See whether there's anyone who's actually experiencing all this. If we look to try and see who is that seer, the seer will disappear, and what remains is the reality. Yes.
The subject of prayer,
Yes.
it's a very tricky one. Bhagavan was emphatic that there's no point in petitional prayer for various reasons.
Yes.
And that in non-duality, there's nothing other than oneself to pray to, because we are actually God. But within the various strictures that Bhagavan uttered in relation to prayer, is there still a part for prayer in our sadhana and in the process of self-inquiry?
If you read Arunachala Panchakam, there are so many prayers there. It's not that prayer is right or prayer is wrong. It is what we should pray for is the question. What we should pray for is only the annihilation of our ego, or what is conducive to the annihilation of our ego. In Aksharamana, Bhagavan has prayed in so many ways. He's praying only for annihilation of the ego. So though he hasn't said you should pray like this, he taught us by example what we should pray for. We shouldn't pray for anything except for the annihilation of our own ego.
Not even for a situation, for example, where one feels that one is sort of stuck in one's ego and one earnestly wants to get out of it, to get back into oneself. Can the utterance of a prayer help in that?
Well, yes, and that's why I say Bhagavan is... the only way to get back to what we are is the destruction of this ego.
Okay.
So we can pray for the destruction of the ego in many ways, as Bhagavan has shown in Arunachala Panchakam.
Okay.
What we shouldn't pray for is any type of change in our external circumstances or in the external circumstances of other people. Because if we trust that God, as Alan was just saying, if Bhagavan has ordained our prarabdha, if we believe he's ordained our prarabdha for our best good, why should people ask, can Guru change prarabdha? What a foolish question. Is Guru who's ordained the prarabdha for our good, but we want him to change it to, he knows what is good for us, we don't know what is good for us.
Sure.
So praying for anything other than the annihilation of our ego is foolishness. Praying for to avoid some suffering or to change anything that is destined to happen is foolishness.
Even in the seeming suffering of others, or what appear to be others.
Well, yes. Again, these others exist in our view. So when we say, "Oh God, please relieve the suffering of these people," It's because we can't bear to see them suffering. That's why we're asking for that. So it's again, all these are prayers that will sustain the illusion that we're the ego.
Yes, it's pretty obvious.
So if you see suffering, the proper way to pray is, please pray, save me from the self-ignorance which causes me to see this suffering.
Right. Well, then that's a valid prayer. That's
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. But again, presumably some prayers are good for the prayer.
Well, yes, that's what, she was just asking about the Shraddha ceremony, the Hindu rituals for the ancestor. I mean, if your father's passed away, every year you should do on his anniversary every year you should, your father or mother or any of your ancestors, you should, I think normally people do for their immediate parents on their death anniversary, and then at one particular time of year they do for all their infinite number of past ancestors. Why we do that? Because we want the blessings of our ancestors, so they will bless us, and we also hope that our children will do it, because when we do these ceremonies, our ancestors are there in Pitraloka or wherever, some other world. The food offerings and things that we give, it goes to them. And so because we are feeding them, they bless us, and in the same way we want to be fed when we go, so we hope our children will do it. So all this is what? It's kamyata. It's all for the fulfillment of our own personal desires. But that, when asked about that, Bhagavan, when he was asked, is it good? He said, yes, it's good for the one who's doing it. It's not that Bhagavan is recommending that we should do all these ceremonies, but the good is only for if you do a good karma, it's good for you. But why should we, if we do a good karma because it's good for us, that is we're doing it with the wrong motivation, so it's easy to be a good karma. So we can forget about all these things. All these things are unnecessary. Bhagavan never told people don't do these things, because these are social customs. If he told people, oh, don't do all these ceremonies for your ancestors, their relatives will get angry with them. So Bhagavan isn't going to upset the social customs and things, because that's not the point. The problem is the ego, not the social customs. So Bhagavan didn't try to reform any social customs or say this is right or this is wrong. He let the things go on, but who is the one who rises to experience all these things and ask, is this right or is this wrong? So Bhagavan is always intent on dealing with the root of it, which is the ego. That is the only thing Bhagavan is really concerned with.
I get that. So what it comes down to is that nearly all forms of prayer are a form of egotism. They all feed the ego.
Yes, of course. Everything is a form. Everything we do is attending to anything other than ourselves is feeding our ego.
Okay. Thanks.
The only non-egotistical action is turning our attention back to ourselves, but that is not even an action, so we can't even call it a non-egotistical action, because that is ceasing to be active. That is not actually acting at all.
All these people filling up churches and mosques and things like that, I mean, they're doing a limited amount of good to the extent that they're doing something good for themselves.
Kamya worship leads ultimately to nishkamya. If you pray to God for this and for that, for all your desires, sooner or later, after many, many lives of doing this, your love for God will develop, and you'll eventually feel, who is greater? Sadhuam has written a song, Kodu Tavam Perida, Indu Kodu Kode Porul Perida. Is the giver greater, or are the gifts greater? Obviously the giver is greater than the gifts. So if we pray to God for kamyata, we are praying for gifts. And so we're giving more importance to the gifts than to the giver. But after many births or many dreams of praying to God for this and that and receiving it and being grateful to him and asking him for more, we finally come to a realization, if he is so kind to me to give me all these things I want, is he not much greater than all these things he's giving me? So isn't it mean and petty of me to want all these things from him? Shouldn't I want him alone? So that's how the Karmiya worship develops into Nishkamya worship. And then from that point onward, the purification of the mind is speeded up. And eventually the Nishkamya worship, by body, speech and mind, ultimately leads to the point where the mind is more and more purified. We understand, can God be anything other than I? Or can I be no, let's put it the other way. Can I be anything other than God? If he is the infinite, the whole, who am I who rises as if someone separate from him? Our attention turns back to ourselves, then the purification is completed by Atma-vichara.
So it plays, you could say that prayer plays a part in the purification of the mind.
Everything does, everything. Every pleasure and pain in our life is all given to us by God for our purification, but it's a very, 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 very slow process. If we want to speed up the process, first we should ditch the old Kamya Bhakti. We should worship God only for the love of God, or for the love of him, not for love of anything that we want to get from him. But and if we want to speed up the purification even more, we should stop considering him to be something other than ourselves. Because if he is the whole, we can't be anything other than him. So he must exist within us. So if we can't see him in ourselves, how can we see him in anything else? So we should first see him in ourselves, and then the purification is completed by trying to see God within ourselves. In other words, by turning our attention within to see what we actually are.
Thank you. Amen to that.
Right.
But other Shaivite traditions that talk about the world as being made out of Shiva's Shakti and hence
we can understand this very easily with an analogy. The rope alone is real, the snake is unreal, the snake is only a rope.
Right.
Does that not make it clear what is meant by that? Brahman alone is real. That's like saying the snake alone is real.
Yes.
The world or whatever is mithya, is unreal.
Yes.
That's like saying the snake is unreal.
Yes.
But then what is the snake? It's nothing but the rope.
Yes.
That is, the world is nothing but Brahman.
Yes. So doesn't that give a more positive aspect to the world?
Not really.
No.
Because when we see the world, we're not seeing Brahman. When we see the snake, we are not seeing the rope. When you see the snake as a rope, you cease to see the snake and you see only a rope. When we see the world as Brahman, we are not seeing the world, we are seeing only Brahman.
Right, so you can never see the world as real.
No. It's like I told that are you familiar with that image of the duck-rabbit image?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So you cannot see it at the same time as both a duck and a rabbit. So we either see Brahman or we see the world. We cannot see both. We cannot see both. We cannot see the same thing as both. Because there is only one thing. We missee it as the world. If we see it correctly, we see it's only Brahman. But even this is talking, when we talk about Brahman, it sounds as if Brahman is something other than ourself. Whereas what Brahman actually is only ourself. So what we see as this world is only ourself.
So once we see the dream as a dream, the dream must disappear.
Well, we see it as a dream only when it disappears. It's only after waking up that we recognize, oh, that was a dream. So long as we were dreaming, it seemed to be waking. It's only when we come out of one dream into another dream that we realize the previous dream was a dream.
This can become very dry. What happens to things like, I mean, you know, it is mostly suffering. There's also the beauty of nature, the beauty of the roses, the beauty of little children.
Okay, who sees it as beauty? Where do they say beauty lies? In the eye of the beholder. So who is the beholder? If you want to find the source of beauty, you have to look at the beholder. The beholder is the ego. If you look at the ego disappears, and what remains is the ultimate beauty, which is what you really are.
So we could never say, as people do, that the beauty of nature is God shining through nature or whatever. That's just wrong.
Well, it's any beauty we see outside is beauty we projected from within. So the source of all beauty comes from within us. We are the source of all beauty. So if you want to find infinite beauty, you can only find it in yourself. Because whatever beauty we see outside is finite. There's no beautiful experience that will last forever.
Change, it will turn into its opposite.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Alistair wants to ask.
Yes, it's very interesting, Ursula's question. I mean, you say that you either see the duck or the rabbit. Surely it is possible to see both.
No. Try. You see one of the images.
Well, I can. I mean, I'm looking at you.
Yes.
I know that you're both real and unreal. You're the duck and the rabbit. Yes, I can see that.
If you're seeing me as, when you say real and unreal, what is real and unreal? You see me as existent and non-existent.
Yes.
You see me as non-existent?
Yes.
Shall I come and give you a bash over the head?
But that would be equally unreal.
If you're able to take the beating as unreal, fine. But the thing is, when we see something as real, we see it as real. We cannot see it as both unreal and we can imagine.
I can't accept that.
No, that's our imagination. But actually, look at an image of a duck and a rabbit, and see if you can see it as both a duck and a rabbit. One moment you see it as a duck, we can switch between at will.
Yes, but that's just an arbitrary example.
No, but that is a very good example. Can you see a rope as a snake and as a rope?
Yes.
You can imagine how the rope can be seen as a snake. Once you see it as a snake, once you see it as a rope, you can never, your fear of it will go.
Oh, that may be, but I can still see it as a snake.
No, you're not really seeing it as a snake. Because you know very well it's not going to come and bite you. You can pick it up by its tail or its head or anything. It's not going to bite you. So you can imagine how it can appear as a snake, but you're not actually seeing it as a snake.
I find this very difficult to accept.
It seems to me to be very easy.
Well, once you know that the rabbit, you see something as a rabbit, and then you see it as what was the other?
The duck.
Duck. Once you know the two, then you can see it as both.
No, you can't see it. If you see one of the images, you
can't see it at the same time.
You can't see it at the same time. Yes, you can see it as either this or that, and you can switch between them at will. You can see the two long things either as the rabbit's ears or as the duck's beak, but you can't see it as both together.
Not at that time.
Not at the same time. Yes.
But once you know that there's two,
Yes.
then you can see.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, if you bring it down to a practical example, I mean, Bhagavan said that he never saw anything. People tried to persuade him to go on pilgrimages and said, what's the point? I never see anything.
Yes.
But he clearly did see things because he was able to function in the mundane world as as well as anybody else.
Who functioned in the mundane world?
Well, what we took to be Bhagavan.
What we took to be Bhagavan. But Bhagavan said, I am not this. If Bhagavan is that person who is functioning in the mundane world, he ceased to exist in 1950. So there's no Bhagavan now.
No, well, that's true.
So obviously he wasn't that person.
Well, he was.
He seemed, in our view...
That's precisely why you are not Michael. Because you won't exist.
But I see myself
you
as...
won't exist in 50 years.
Yes, but I now experience myself as Michael. It's now my actual experience that I am Michael.
But I can see you both as Michael and not Michael.
Okay, well, I wish I could. I feel myself very much as Michael.
It's the same with everything. I mean, with the sort of realization that we have, we sort of see everything with the caveat that it's not actually the reality.
Sometimes people write to me and tell me, I had this experience. Is that an experience of the self? Who had the experience? It was some person who said they had the experience. This person, as Michael, I can never experience what I actually am. In order to experience what I actually am, I have to cease experiencing myself as Michael. Because Michael is not what I actually am.
I'm getting a bit lost in all this.
You're not getting lost in it, we are all lost in it. From the moment the ego rises to the moment it subsides, we're all lost in this. It's because we're lost that we're now trying to find our way home.
Some are more lost than others, I can tell you.
Well, no, can I just answer this? Sorry.
There's an interesting story that people know of, this business about the rope and the snake and all that, which is
Louder.
There's a story which is quite recent from Ayodhya, when there were all these killings and Hindu rights was treating all these conscience. And the Ram temple which was there, the priest of that temple was against all this politicization. And when they spoke to him, he picked up a stone. This was in terms of Hindu-Muslim and
Yeah. Yeah.
And he picked up a stone and he said, this too is Ram.
Yes.
And he was actually subsequently killed by the Hindu right.
Oh.
Yeah, he was actually murdered. But this was, and sort of in this terms, I mean, sometimes people say that you think of everything is just I or whatever, to extend that.
Yes.
But another piece of advice which I think sometimes might be helpful, and this was from Ranjit Maharaj and his guru Siddhartha Maharaj, was that if you simply are aware or think that all this arises on myself, and this thing of the self itself not being really aware, but everything coming, it sort of puts you back, into that. And I think because sometimes when we investigate, there's kind of a narrowing. We don't really feel.
There has to be a narrowing. According to Bhagavan, we have to focus on the ego.
I know, but what happens, I think, is that the mind interferes very often.
Mind is always interfering, but in order to avoid the interference of the mind, we have to focus on what is this ego? Who am I?
I just thought that particularly was helpful because occasionally, I have the presence of mind to recall that. It does kind of allow oneself to become a little bit more investigative and anchored in self-awareness. And at the same time, the world is there, but the attention is not that. It's just widened and the attention just kind of...
Yes, but the world is still there only so long as we rise as an ego. So who is it who rises to say, to experience the seeming existence of the world? Yes.
Maybe somebody else will online.
Right.
Can I just say something? I think everything we have discussed or are discussing, each one of us here, and me more so than others, I think, we are trying to comprehend something within the confines of the intellect, which
Yes.
itself is a very limited projection of
Yes.
the ego.
Yes.
So therefore, to comprehend something, to try to fit that into that limit is not possible. So we
Yes.
are trying to put all sorts of conceptualizations
Yes.
within the boundaries of what we actually
That is
know,
why.
and that's not possible. So to know it is to be it.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
isn't it?
But the conceptual understanding, it's good to have a clear conceptual understanding of Bhagavan's teaching. But Bhagavan's teaching is actually extremely simple. So you don't need a great intellect to understand Bhagavan's teachings. You need to be able to simplify your understanding to the ultimate level. So the more we can, that's why I started yesterday by saying Bhagavan's teachings actually consist of a relatively small set of very simple principles. That's all we need to understand. Those principles are easy to understand, they're difficult for us to accept. Principles such as when the ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. When the ego does not exist, nothing else exists. That's very, very difficult for us to accept, because we like to think that this world exists even before we were born. It exists when we're asleep. It exists when we're dreaming. Because this world is, we feel during this waking state, this world is our home. We like to think even when we go off into sleep, we come back and our home is still here. Everything is familiar. But according to Bhagavan, this is all a dream. This all comes, and this dream exists only so long as you're dreaming it, so long as you're experiencing it. Another simple principle, Bhagavan says, the ego seems to exist only so long as it's aware of something else. It comes into existence by grasping form. It stands by grasping form. It feeds itself by grasping form. If you look at it, it will disappear. That's a very, very simple idea. If we grasp that idea, that answers all questions.
Yes. So it also seems to
But as I say, it's easy to understand, it's difficult to accept. Once we accept, then there's nothing else for us to understand. We don't, most of the questions we ask, if you read a book like Talks, people ask Bhagavan so many questions. 99% of them are completely unnecessary. If they understood the basic principles of Bhagavan's teachings, almost all questions go out of the window. It all comes down to the basic question, who am I? That's the only meaningful question ultimately.
So it also almost seems to me that grasping is associated with doing. We are always doing a sadhana. Or
Yes,
doing
yes.
something. So it seems to me almost the opposite and be not doing.
Yes, not
Exactly.
grasping,
Not grasping.
letting go of everything.
Yes, so the more we not do,
Yes,
in a way.
yeah.
because-
It's total surrender. Can you do surrender?
Yes.
And
Otherwise
so,
it makes sense.
and surrender and vichara are one and the same, because when we turn our attention back towards this ego, the ego subsides.
So the ego is like a parasite, isn't it?
It is. Grasping, yeah. That's what ulu vittu ulu patram, Bhagavan says. Leaving one form, it grasps another form.
So not to feed it.
Not to feed it, yes. To starve it into submission. And we can only starve it by attending to ourselves. It is so simple, but we're just not ready to accept it.
It's like jumping off a cliff thinking we're going to die, not knowing or fearing that there is no safety net there.
Yes.
And that's the problem, isn't
Yeah.
it? That last necessary leap.
And Bhagavan used to say about people who are afraid to lose the ego. He said it's like a person standing on the ground and holding a branch. And when you ask them to let go, they say, no, I don't want to let go, I'll fall. But you're already standing on the ground. There's nowhere to fall. We are already that. By giving up this ego, we don't lose anything. And another thing Bhagavan used to say about people who fear to lose the ego, Bhagavan said it's like a person who has a small copper coin, a half paisa. In those days they had, the rupees were divided into 16 annas, and the annas were divided into so many 20 paisa or whatever. So a half paisa, you've got a little half paisa coin, and you're asked to surrender that, and in return you'll get all the wealth in the universe. But you're unwilling to let go of your little copper coin, because that's all the wealth you have. So you hold on to it. So our holding on to this ego is just like that, Bhagavan used to say.
The thing about this ego is that your thinking mind is your ego mind.
Yes.
But that thinking mind doesn't bloody stop.
Who is aware of the thinking mind?
Well, it just goes on. I mean,
But that is why often Bhagavan used the word mind and ego as synonyms. But mind is also used to mean the whole collection of thoughts. So Bhagavan explained this very briefly but very clearly in verse 18 of Upadesha Undiyaya. Ennengale manam, the mind is only, thoughts alone are the mind.
Thoughts what?
Thoughts alone are the mind. So all the totality of all thoughts, and thoughts by thoughts, Bhagavan doesn't mean just, people think, when they hear the word thoughts, they think of a chatter going on in their head. That is not what Bhagavan means by thought. According to Bhagavan, all mental phenomena, feelings, perceptions, everything, all are thoughts. So the mind is just a collection of mental phenomena, of thoughts, however we call it. Of all these thoughts, the root, the primal thought, the root is the ego. He says the thought called I. That means the ego. Therefore mind is ego, he concludes by saying. What he means by that is this whole package of thoughts is called mind. The essence of all these thoughts, the root of all these thoughts is the ego. Other thoughts come and go, but the one thought, so whatever other thought we may think, who is the one thinking it? It is the ego, the thought called I. So this is the basic thought, the essential thought of the mind. So what the mind essentially is just the ego. So when we use the word mind, we have to be clear in our own mind whether we're talking about the collection of thoughts or the root of thoughts. The collection of thoughts is constantly changing. The root remains the same. It's grasping this thing, that thing, that thing. What it grasps is changing, but what it itself is the same. There's only one ego. You were once a small girl. The one who experienced that small girl as I is the same one who now experiences this older person as I. So the ego hasn't changed. What the ego experiences as itself has now changed. The body has grown up, passed through so many years, you now have so many memories, so many things have changed about the person. But the I who feels this person is I remains the same. So it's always the same ego. That ego is the root. That is what we need to investigate. Because only by investigating that we can break this habit it has of grasping things. When we investigate it, it disappears because it doesn't really exist. It seems to exist only so long as we're grasping things. It's a very, very powerful question. Very dangerous question if we ask it properly, because that is what Bhagavan calls the atom bomb of jnana. That's far more dangerous than any weapon of mass destruction. I mean, we humans are pretty good at finding weapons of mass destruction. We find all sorts of ways of killing each other. But Bhagavan is the most dangerous of all. He's found a weapon, and a weapon that can be handled by anyone. Yeah. So we don't tell any terrorists about this weapon. It's very, very dangerous. This is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Could I ask, have you spoken about this Purana? Because I keep reading about this Purana.
What is this Purana? If the Purana is something other than you, you need not worry about it. Because all Bhagavan asked us to find out is, who am I? So if Spurana is something other than I, we need not be concerned about it. Spurana is not a thing. Spurana, the word Spurana means, it's actually, the root of the word is the verb spur. Spur means to shine or to make itself known. Anything that makes itself known can be called a Spurana. Your beating of your heart is a Spurana. Because if you feel it, you can feel it beating inside your chest. If you put a stethoscope, so anything that makes itself known, a light is a Spurana. So but it's not just any Spurana that Bhagavan is talking about. He's talking about the Aham Spurana. That's the shining of I. That's all Aham Spurana means. But in the sense in which Bhagavan used it, we don't normally say, we wouldn't say this table is a Spurana. Because it's something but generally, if something flashes into view, that is called a Spurana. It's the appearance of something, a new manifestation of something. So what Spurana is, we all clearly know I am, but we don't clearly know what I am. So we begin to investigate ourselves. As we investigate ourselves more and more, the fundamental awareness that we actually are becomes more and more clear to us. That clarity of self-awareness is what is called Spurana. That's all it is. So Spurana is nothing other than ourself. It's the clarity with which we are aware of ourselves. That's all. So it's not a thing we are looking for. It is ourself, but it's the clarity. So it's not something that it's not an object of experience. It's a quality of experience. It's a quality of self-experience. A clarity of self-experience, self-awareness.
I have flashes of something like this on and off between the ages of, I don't know, about 5 and 22. And I know you were saying it couldn't have been, if I was saying I had this experience, but when I was in this experience, all I was aware of was I.
Yeah.
And this was without knowing anything
okay. These may be, such experiences happen when our mind temporarily subsides. Or it doesn't completely subside, because if it completely subsided, it would be a state like sleep. But it's a temporary state of partial subsidence of mind, does give us some sort of fresh clarity. What you're actually experiencing at that time, if you're experiencing visions or things, that's obviously something other than yourself. But if you're just experiencing some clarity of self-awareness, that is Spurana.
That is Spurana.
Yes. But that Spurana is not something that comes and goes. It's always there, we're just not looking at it. So it's always available, but we have to look at it.
Oh, I wish I could look at it again. That was just...
Well, it's there. You are that. You are that. You say, I wish I could look at it. The I who says, I wish I could look at it, the I who has that wish, is what you should be looking at. Because you are that. Tattvamasi. Has it come back to your...
Yes, it did come back, yeah. It was just a fairly trivial question, but it was, can you be aware of two thoughts at once?
Aren't you aware of many things here?
Yes.
So each thing is a thought. Each phenomena, each object you see in front of us, this person who's now replying to your question, this is one of your thoughts.
Right.
But in your line of vision, there are some other people between you and me. You're less aware of them because you're focusing your attention on me because you want to know what answer I'm giving. But you're aware of other things at the same time.
Well, I'm only partially aware, so
Yes. But actually, I don't quite know how modern computer screens work. They call it liquid crystal display. I don't quite know the technology in that. But in old screens, in old televisions or the early computer screens, how the old television worked, at the back of the television tube, there's basically a ray gun, something shooting electrons at the screen. And it would spray the screen back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It would spray so many dots on the screen. Each dot would be the equivalent of a frame from a projected film. So at any one moment, it's projecting at one spot on the screen. But we see it as one whole picture. It can either be a still picture, or it can be a moving picture. But it's actually being sprayed one dot, one electron or whatever it is at a time. It's striking the screen at one spot, and then the next spot, and the next spot, and the next spot, like that. But it happens so rapidly, we see one whole picture. And we see two people talking there, we're attending to both of them. Yeah. So in the same way, if we go down to the microscopic level, we are projecting one thought at a time. But we project thoughts in such rapid succession, it produces a picture of the whole world.
But say when we're thinking something, we're going for an argument, for say mathematical proof.
Yes.
We see one thing at a time, don't we? We don't.
Not well. In the ultimate analysis, possibly yes, but in practice, our mind is jumping from one thing to another with such a rapid speed. We quickly process information. For example, do you drive a car? I don't drive a car, but you probably do. When you're driving a car on a busy road, almost unconsciously, there is a slight awareness there, but you're processing so much information.
But you're not consciously aware of those.
You are to a very limited extent, but your attention is not focused on that because you're so used to driving, it's almost become second nature to you. So when a car comes out this way, you automatically adjust your own driving, and so you can be having a conversation with someone or thinking about your own thoughts. So only a small part of your attention is on the driving. Such a small part, but at the end of the journey, you can't even remember. Sometimes you go, well, I can't even remember whether it was a busy road or not. Yeah, there must have been a lot of traffic on it, but I can't remember anything about it because only a very small fraction of your attention was on that. Most of your attention was on your conversation with your friend or your whatever thoughts you were thinking. So we can attend to many things. So that is why when we try to... What?
At the same instant, can we attend to many things?
We are not able to split time up. I mean, within a second, we attend to so many things. Because our mind is still relatively gross, we are not able to separate all those different moments. So to us, just like when we're going to watch a film on the screen, it will be a moving picture. It will be the equivalent of many frames being flashed on the screen. Yeah. Probably modern technology doesn't use frames like that, but it's many images are being flashed on the screen in such a rapid speed, we see it as one continuous moving picture. Yeah. So we
what provoked this question was the ears of the rabbits and the duck.
Yes, we can very quickly switch between one and the other, but we can't see both. But how this question, we can apply it to this self-investigation. What we are trying to do when we investigate ourselves, we are trying to focus our attention on ourselves alone. But because our mind is still, our minds are gross, because for so many past dreams, we have been habituated to attending only to other things. Our mind has become a relatively blunt and coarse instrument. When we're trying to attend to ourselves, at first it is like trying to separate the fine threads of a silk cloth with a blunt crowbar. So our mind needs to be refined and purified in order to be able to perceive ourselves as we actually are. So we are trying to focus our attention on ourselves. But when we sit in meditation, we're aware of some sound, some buzzing, and some, or even some lights flashing in before our eyes. And when you close your eyes, you can still see some light there. So we may be aware of a slight itch in our arm. We are never totally withdrawing our attention from other things. So even when we're practicing trying to go deep within, our self-attentiveness is still mixed up with awareness of other things. We're aware of other things because a little bit of our attention is going to those other things. So as our mind becomes more and more pure, we're able to focus more and more on ourselves. And the more we focus on ourselves, the more other things, awareness of other things recedes into the background. But only when our mind becomes very, very pure, what Bhagavan calls in Ulidunapadu Nunmati, the subtle mind, or Kundamati, the very sharp, acute, penetrating mind, only such a mind can actually see what it actually is. That subtlety and purity, that subtlety and clarity and sharpness comes by persistent practice. So then we're able to focus more and more on one thing until eventually we're able to focus our entire attention on ourselves alone, and then end of story. They all lived happily ever after.
End of story. Thank you.